It's the year 2025. The war in Ukraine is in full swing as Russia loses more men and resources, and begins to fall into an economic crisis. So what then is Russia to do? If you chose option 4, you are a complete idiot. Seriously, why would anyone ever do that? Anyways, the answer is, of course, C. Russia launched a plan that in springtime of 2026, they would launch an offensive so massive Ukraine would just have to surrender, breaking through in Sumy Oblast, taking Kiev, and ending the war. A great idea. There's just one problem though. Russia doesn't win. Ukraine holds Kiev, preventing a Russian victory and halting their advance, although they do take some land. In the summer of 2027, the war in Ukraine reaches a total stalemate. Russian and Ukrainian diplomats meet in Geneva to discuss a ceasefire, and a temporary halt to the fighting occurs. However, this ceasefire, while intended to be temporary at first, very quickly becomes permanent. Meanwhile, Putin is disgraced by his failing war in Ukraine. He becomes less popular as pro-democracy protests occur in Moscow. These are the largest protests ever in recent Russian history, and they demand an end to Putin's autocratic rule. However, these protests are violently crushed, with the ringleaders arrested or even killed. But the violent crushing of the protests kind of ends up making Putin even less popular. Meanwhile, Ukraine applies to join the EU, but Western leaders don't want them joining NATO out of fear of provoking a war with Russia. Let's go back to the EU. A couple of other countries joined as well after Ukraine begins the process of joining. Montenegro and Albania joined in October of 2027. Georgia tries, but is barred from joining due to their border conflicts with Russia. Now let's go to Turkey. Wait, what the hell? As it turns out, Turkey also had its fair share of protests, inspired by the ones in Russia. They sent the military out to destroy these protests and arrest the ringleaders, but the military got mad about attacking their fellow citizens so much, so they rose up, declaring the Turkish Provisional Government and beginning the Turkish Civil War. Kurdish rebels also began to rise up in eastern Turkey, sick of their poor treatment under Erdogan. Similar protests also occurred in Serbia, forcing Vučić to step down and hold free elections.